Hey everybody, this is Robert of Bob's World 379, and I'm actually doing a challenge video here from our good friend Marty of Marty's Rambling. And actually, I guess you can blame me because I came up with the original idea about telling about ourselves and going back to a Christmas, one of our favorite Christmases. Well, Marty kind of reversed it and made a challenge to all of us, and asked us if we could possibly do a video and share with everybody. So here's my attempt. I'm not much of a video maker. Everybody that knows me knows that. But anyway, in case you happen to catch this video, just understand I'm an amateur, certainly when it comes to making videos. But I'm even less of an amateur when it comes to, or more of an amateur, I should say, when it comes to woodworking. Just a little bit of a brief history about me as a woodworker. I've been woodworking for probably 40 years, and on and off. I really shouldn't say 40 years. I started woodworking over 40 years ago. I've been involved in woodworking my whole life, really going back to a very young child. My grandfather got me involved in woodworking. He was a master cabinet maker after he retired from the union, the steel workers. And anyways, he just loved wood. He was the one that really instilled the love of wood, the smell of wood, and all that to me. My grandfather's favorite wood was curly maple. He loved curly maple. And my favorite wood, just so, not that it matters, but my favorite wood is ambrosia maple. I love ambrosia maple. I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful grain of wood. Not easy to find, but it's a very nice wood. It's just something. When I find a nice piece of ambrosia, as I call it, I make sure I put it aside for a very, very special project. But anyways, going back to my woodworking, I guess my first skills in woodworking probably started around I think 6th or 7th grade. I think you do wood shop in 7th grade. And anyway, I took wood shop, and I was very interested in that. It was just something that I kind of gravitated to. I loved it. And our teacher in the wood shop was very limited things we could do, in junior high school at those days. But I remember specifically building a 3-legged stool. And I was so proud of it. I brought it home and gave it to my mother for Christmas. And the doggone thing would barely stand up on its own, much less anybody sitting on it. But nonetheless, I was very proud of it. And my mother, I think she kept that stool to the day she died. And I think I still have it downstairs somewhere. My mother was very, very sentimental when it came to things like that. And of course, yes, that's my mother of the grandfather that got me into wood. But anyway, after that, I got interested in scroll sawing. And my scroll sawing, I had a scroll saw given to me. And I got to tell you, back then, I thought it was the most wonderful thing in the world. It was an old Dremel, 1-speed Dremel, pinned type scroll saw. And it was so light, you could literally pick it up with one finger. And it was just a horrible piece of machinery when you think about it. But I thought the world of it. To me, it was wonderful. And anyways, I had that thing right up until just a couple years ago. I gave it away to somebody. And in fact, I told them the story of the sediment. I probably should have kept it, but again, no reason to keep it. But I gave it away. And I remember using that scroll saw, and literally it would jar the teeth right out of you, trying to hold a piece of wood down. And it had an old hold down, the old thing looks like a couple fingers holding it down, and no matter, in spite of how hard you tried to hold the wood down, it would just rattle the whole thing right out of your hand. But nonetheless, I had a ball with that, and I used it for many different projects. But then again, it got to be so, I didn't realize there were really nice scroll saws out there. So then finally, I got my first real scroll saw, and it was an old Delta scroll saw, which I fell in love with the Deltas. And I used that thing until it literally died. And I got very interested. And the very first night, I remember going back to my old little Dremel. It was a little bronze-colored thing. And the funny thing of it is, I saw on a YouTube video recently where a guy had taken an exact same Dremel that I had, and he completely restored it. He took it apart, and I wished I would have seen that video, because I would have probably kept mine, and I would have done the same thing. But anyway, he restored it, and so moving on again to the Delta. What a difference! It was like a Cadillac going to that. And that's when I really started scroll sawing. I remember one time telling my wife, coming home from work. I worked at a a paper factory. And I came home from work and one day, and I had a particularly, really stressful day at work, and I just needed to do something. Well, I found so much tranquility in, if you will, in scroll sawing. And to this day, when I get a little bit, stressed out or whatever, that's when I scroll saw the most. I'll go downstairs and I'll put on some music, put a dust, thing over my dust, a dust mask over me, and I literally get lost. Well, it reminded me back to my very first time when I got a fairly decent scroll saw. I told my wife, I'm going to go downstairs for a little bit. Just let me know when it's supper time. I'll come up. I used to get out of work about 3:30 in the afternoon, and so anyway, I started scrolling, and I just got lost, completely got lost, making all different things. I had all kinds of patterns by that time, and I started scrolling, and then all of a sudden I started getting a little hungry. I'm thinking, man, I'm getting hungry for whatever reason, and all of a sudden I look up, and in the cellar window, I was down in my basement, and in the cellar window, I look up. It's completely pitch black dark out. I look at my watch. It is 1:15 in the morning. And here I am still scrolling. It's like, I got to get up and go to work in the morning. So I dragged myself upstairs, up to bed I go. Of course, my wife was already in bed. Everything, supper was put away. I was too tired to even eat. And anyway, the next day I went to work and came back home and told my wife, I said, hey, I said, I didn't get any dinner last night. I said, and I said, you didn't tell me. She said, yeah, I did. I hollered down 3 times. I knocked on the door, on the floor with a broom. You never heard it one bit. And of course I had, like I said, I was listening to music, and I had my, dust mask on and everything. I was completely shut out from the world. Never heard a thing. So anyway, I created a lot of great things, had a wonderful time. And that's ever since that time, that is really woodworking, particularly scrolling, has been my solace. It has been my getaway, and it just unbelievably worked for me. I got involved also in whittling a little bit to some degree. When I was in the Boy Scouts, I used to love to whittle. Again, my dad had given me an old pocket knife, and by the way, to this day, the Cohen boys, myself and my brother David, we carry pocket knives in our pocket every single day. Our dad had always, instilled upon us the importance of having a pocket knife. You never, ever, ever know when you're going to need a pocket knife. So we had pocket knives ever since I can remember. I was a young kid. I was probably 6, 7 years old when I had my first pocket knife. But anyway, that's a side note. I kind of I digress. But getting back to the woodworking part, and then I'll fast forward way ahead even some more. Then finally, I met this wonderful woodworking group. Well, Marty actually formed the woodworking group. I had found one of Marty's video on there. I was just looking for something in particular to find. I think I was looking to make some name signs, and I looked it up, and lo and behold, up popped Marty's Rambling, and he was making a name sign. And I thought, wow, that's great. And I said, especially I loved the way he liked it, because he made templates. I was using patterns back then. I thought, gosh, how can I make a decent name? I can't draw a straight line, much less letters. So anyways, Marty had talked about how he did his. He went on and online on the computer, and he downloaded a hobo font, which is wonderful for making signs, by the way. I downloaded the font and learned how to make them. And then I, like Marty now, he got me into making 1/8-inch hardboard templates. So anything that I know I'm going to make multiples of, or years to come, I make hardboard templates of them, and I literally hang them up on a little nail or an eye hook up above the rafters down in my shop and in my scroll saw area, and it works out great. But and then Marty formed this little group, and he got together, and we've had this cadre of friends. I think there's 7 or 8 of us or whatever, and there's Marty, and there's Chris out in California. Marty's in Minnesota. I'm in New York State. We've got Lynn over in Ohio. We've got Frankie down in Alabama. Joseph's over in Texas. We've got Andy across the ocean over in the UK. He's in England. And our little group has really, well, we've become very, very close, fast friends, all of us. We stay in contact. We all are men of faith. And, anyways, we stay in close contact with each other. We check on each other almost daily. And it's really a fantastic thing. It really is. It's incredible. Well, anyways, back to my little woodworking journey. I was one day I was just home, wasn't particularly busy that day. Well, actually, that's a lie because I'm always busy. I am always busy. In fact, uh, I'm a small town historian, and I just made an appointment not 5 minutes ago. A guy was asking me, "Well, what's your best time?" And to make. I said, "Look, I'm so busy. I have to make time to do things. So that's how I do things. I don't lie to anybody else anymore. No, I'm not doing anything. No, I'm always busy. I always stay busy. That's why it took me so long to make this video because I have to squeeze in some time to do it. I have to make the time to do it. So anyway, back to the thing, and Marty gets a hold of me one day, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be over in your area. I'm going to be in a little town called Corfu, New York. It's near Buffalo. Is that near you?" And I said, "Well, it's a good 3 hours drive from me," which it is. Straight down the throughway, though. It's easy to get to. He said, "Well, if you'd like to meet up," he said, "I'd love to meet you." So anyways, again, I dropped everything I was doing, and it wasn't a good day. It was mid-April, April 11th, I believe, to be exact, of this year, 2024. And it was at home. It was freezing rain and snowy type. I ventured out anyway, so I left plenty early. I left myself like 5 hours. And as it turned out, I didn't have any trouble at all. I ran out of the freezing rain and snow and whatnot. Got to the Buffalo area. Then as I got there, it started snowing again. But I waited for an hour or so, and finally I met up with Marty, and it was wonderful. We went and we had some dinner at gosh, I can't remember the name of the restaurant. I think it was a Denny's on the thruway or near the thruway, and Marty bought me dinner. By the way, thank you, Marty, for dinner, and had a great time. Finally meeting Marty after all that time, and then after that, I had already had a planned trip in the books, and that was to go visit some of my woodworking friends in the South. Now, the past 3 years in a row, I have been going down to what they called the Klingspor extravaganza. I was invited by another friend of mine, Tyler Dalton, known as the Artisan's Pirate on the YouTube world. And Tyler had invited me down about 3 years ago, and I kind of surprised him. And then the second year, I was actually invited down to partake in the thing, which was great. And anyways, the third year, unfortunately, I couldn't go back again. 3 years in a row. Well, I could actually. I was planning on making the trip, but something else came up instead. We were going to do the picnic. I had since then joined the North Carolina Woodworkers net, and in fact, I think I'm the furthest one away, living in New York State, and this is in North Carolina. So I decided, hey, you know what? I think I'll go down for the picnic. That's in mid-May. So as it turned out, I thought, well, you know what? There's something else too. I said, I'm going to be in North Carolina. I wonder how far are my friend Frankie, because I'd love to meet Frankie. And at that time, Frankie was very interested in the laser engravers. And so I got it in my mind. I thought, you know what? I've got an extra laser engraver here. I'm going to give that to Frankie. So I surprised him, and I texted him, and I contacted him and said, Frankie, would you be interested in having a laser engraver of your own? And of course, he jumped on that and said, oh, are you kidding me? I would love it. So a dumb little idea of coming down for a picnic turned into a beautiful, beautiful trip. And then when my good friend Lynn, originally from Dallas, Texas, now living in Perrysburg, Ohio, a little suburb of Toledo, Ohio, he had heard that I was going down and said, hey, would you like a riding partner? I'd love to go down and make the trip with you. If you'd like to have somebody along, I'd love to go. So it turned into even a bigger trip. So now I turned my efforts turned from Fulton, New York, and I drove over about 6 hours, almost 7 hours, and I picked up Lynn. From there, we left his house. I think I was there about noon that particular day. We left Lynn's house at noon, and we drove to West Virginia, and we got in early enough to have supper and bed down. We got a hotel, and of course I had arranged our hotels for the whole trip all the way in advance, so we knew exactly where we were going to be and when. So Frankie knew we were coming, and we made sure that we spent enough time to spend 3 days. So we ended up spending 2 whole days and an evening before with Frankie. But anyway, before there, we went from West Virginia. The next day, we got to North Carolina, and we went over to Tyler's shop. And then this was great because now Lynn, I had already met Tyler, of course, a couple times. So now Lynn had met Tyler. We went over to his shop, and he had a chance to visit with him for a few hours. The next day we went to the picnic, spent the whole day at the picnic, and then from the picnic we turned around and left there. I think it was about, I want to say 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we headed towards Frankie's house, which was in Falkville, Alabama. And we went over there, and again, we got a room, and we spent, like I say, 2 nights, I think it was. We met that night, and we met Frankie and his wife, Melinda, and they came over to the hotel, and they met us. We chatted for about an hour and a half, whatever it was, freshened up a little bit, and then we went out to supper. And we had a beautiful dinner, and then the very next day, we got over to Frankie's fairly early in the morning. I think we were there about 9 a.m., and we spent the whole first day setting up the machine for Frankie. And as it turned out, it's always, it's never a quick fix. So I'm so glad we took a couple of days to do it. But pretty much by the end of the first day, I finally had the machine set up and actually working. And then we were able to play around with it a little bit. And the next day we went back again. And then the next day I really dove in with Frankie, and I taught him a lot of things that I knew. Well, it didn't take long, trust me. I don't know a lot of things. But I gave him what information I had. We got him all set up with his own version of the software that takes to run it. And Frankie was off and running, and it was great. And then, of course, we had a beautiful time to just sit and visit. We sang some songs. Lynn grabbed Frankie's guitar, and Lynn is quite an accomplished musician. And we sang songs. We videotaped an hour with Frankie and had a wonderful time. And then it was about that time, and we had to shove off and leave Frankie behind. And then we drove away, and from there we went back up, took Lynn home to Ohio. And of course, by that time, I was really, really tired of being on the road. At that time, we had done probably over 2,000 miles, probably 2,200 miles so far. And then I had another 7 hours to drive back home. So I stayed overnight, and anyway, I got a really good night's sleep, nice and rested, got up early in the morning. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning I woke up. I'm an early riser anyways. Woke up and then drove the rest of the way home. Got home about 10 o'clock, 10:30, something like that in the morning, which my wife and son were glad to see me home early, safely home. But it was wonderful. But had it not been for all this woodworking and meeting these wonderful friends, that trip wouldn't have been possible. And it just goes to show you that how a little idea, Marty, he put together this little chat group. We call it the fun chat. And so anyway, I was able to meet all these people. And so far, I haven't been able to meet Chris firsthand, and I plan on doing that. I definitely plan on doing that. And Joseph, I'd love to meet you someday down in Texas. And of course, Andy, that would be the trip of a lifetime. My wife actually wants to go visit because her ancestry is from England, and she would love to go to England someday. And you can bet your life, if we do make a trip to England, we're going to etch out some time to finally meet up with Andy and Allison. So as I say, it was just a super great time. We had the whole trip was so wonderful, and all because of woodworking, a little hobby that we all share, something that well, for me is like I say, it's kind of I use it as a getaway. It's not really so much, the hobby is not so much for me to build things. I don't think I've sold a thing ever. I may have, but I don't remember. But I do a lot of more things other than just scrolling. Scrolling's my favorite. But I have built some pretty good big pieces of furniture. I've built dresses for my granddaughter, and I've built 3 or 4 different beds in my lifetime. I build all kinds of things. I enjoy it, but one time I thought I was going to lose it because my eyesight started leaving me, and I gave up scrolling for quite a long time. So then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to concentrate. And Marty, again, being the eternal optimist that he is, Marty, he's got this thing where he says, don't concentrate on what you can't do. Concentrate on what you can do. And that really resonated with me. So I found this wonderful article in a woodworking magazine about this fella who's blind. And you should see the unbelievable things he does with woodworking, being blind. I thought, my goodness, this man is blind. And my eyesight isn't what I can still see, but it's not what it used to be. So I went on Amazon and I bought one of those little magnifying lamps, and that didn't work out so well for me. I tried it, but it didn't work out so well. So then I decided I bought one of these kind of goofy looking glasses with magnifiers in it, and they work pretty good for me. And so I was able to finally enjoy my scrolling again. And now, actually, I'm at the point in my life where the doctor tells me, he says, you're going to have cataract surgery, sooner than not now. But he's been telling me that for 6 years. And honestly speaking, I can't wait to have my cataract surgery, because he tells me that my eyesight will be really, really good. It'll be sharp. And then I can enjoy scroll sawing even more. So I've got nothing but optimism, nothing but blue skies ahead of me. But anyways, Marty, I thank you very much for this challenge. Again, I'm not much of a video maker, but nonetheless, here's my shot at it. And everybody else watching in there, I invite you to tune in to Marty's Rambling and CW62. My channel is Bob's World 379, and our other buddy, we got Frankie, is White Wolf Adventures. And then my buddy Lynn is Two Flipped, the numeral 2 with a flipped, FLIPPED. And then let's see, I don't think Joseph has a channel, but our buddy Andy in the UK, he's got one called the Wood Gnome, GNOME, and he makes some wonderful things. Andy is really incredible with what he does over there. But anyways, shout out to all my special woodworking friends. Guys, love you all dearly. I know we're getting very close. We're just 2 weeks now, 2 weeks from today. In fact, I think is Christmas Day. Wish you all a very blessed Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. And, do yourself a favor. Get involved in woodworking. It's a great, great hobby. Take care, and we'll see you all soon.